I get some version of this same question every few months, and I want to talk about it here. The question usually comes from an operator who's been in this industry for a long time and is honest enough to ask it. And it starts with everything that's stacked against them, and all of it is true. Costs are up. Equipment is up 30% in this industry from where it was a few years ago. Labor's more expensive than it's ever been, and it's hard to find. There's more competition than there's ever been. I don't hear any of that as whining. That's just the industry right now. And then at the end of it comes this question. Josh, you keep talking about how this operator or that operator is crushing it using the same tools and strategies that I'm using. So what am I not doing that they're doing? Why am I not seeing the same results? What am I missing? Now, I've been sitting on this for at least a year because the honest answer isn't a marketing answer, and I wish it was. It'd be a whole lot easier for us if it was. So let me answer it, and I want to be careful how I do it because the people who ask me this are usually some of the hardest working people that I know. And that's actually the whole problem. The operators who are crushing it are not running a different playbook. Most of the time, they're on the exact program that we've got the rest of our customers on. Same tech strategies, similar offers, same system. The difference is that at one of those washes, there's a person whose actual job is to make sure the thing happens. And at the other one, the person responsible for making sure it happens is also doing 9 other jobs. So when we say ask every customer for their phone number, at one wash, that turns into something that happens consistently every time, even when nobody's watching. And at the other one, it happens only when the owner remembers to bring it up. And that's nobody's fault. That's just what happens when you've got 9 other things on your plate. The strategy isn't what's different between those two washes. The execution is. And execution is a people problem long before it ever becomes a marketing problem. I spoke to an operator recently who has several other businesses, and he's down in the weeds of his own marketing along with everything else that he's doing. So I asked him, why are you doing this instead of handing it to a general manager or site manager or even a marketing director? And he said this. He said, I don't have anybody on my team that I trust to do it. My site managers only have a few months of experience. And I understand why he said it, but think about that for just a second. Because if nobody on your team is ready today, that didn't happen this year. Somebody needed to start bringing those people along a year ago or 2 years ago, and nobody did. And now you're doing all of it yourself and you're calling it a staffing problem. Let me tell you what finally changed my mind on this, because I didn't come to it naturally. Before I ever worked at OpSpot, I was coaching our CEO, Levi. He had 5 employees at the time. He didn't want a big team, and it wasn't because of money. It was that he'd seen the drama that comes along with a lot of people, and he didn't want that for his business. But he also had revenue goals that he was really serious about hitting. And one of the things I said to him was this: if you can find somebody that you trust to do these jobs 80% as well as you can, that's good enough. And he immediately pushed back the way most high-performing entrepreneurs do. But I'm better at it than they are. And he was right. He is better at it. But you're wearing so many hats that you're not actually giving that job 100% of yourself. You're giving it 50% on a good day, probably less. So even if you're the best in the world at it, the version that you're giving to it is a 50% version. Somebody else's 80% will beat your 50% every time. And it beats it while you go do the one thing that only you can do. Now that's a hard thing to admit, because what it means is that the version of you that's doing everything is a worse version of you. So he started investing in his team, and notice how he did it, because this is where most people get this wrong. He didn't go looking for the most impressive resume he could find. He hired people he could trust, people who fit the culture, people who cared about the work. You can teach somebody how to do the job. It's a whole lot harder to teach them to care about it. We had put together a 5-year revenue plan for his business. He hit that target in about 2.5 years. Now, I've also been coaching a young guy here in town that I live that ran into the same wall. He and his wife were doing everything themselves, and they were successful, which was the tricky part because it was working. It just couldn't get any bigger. It was already running at the size of 2 people. But they wanted to grow it, and they also wanted to get her out of the business because they were ready to start growing their family. So we put together a 3-year plan, and honestly, most of that plan came down to one thing, which was hire people and then actually hand the work to them. And that second part is where almost everybody quits. Hiring isn't the hard part. Letting go of the job is. Because he did this, he doubled the business in under 12 months, and his wife is completely out of it. Their 3-year plan was done in 1 year, and now they're ready to grow their family. Now, I'm not sitting here on a high horse because I'm bad at this too. My mindset has always been that if I want it done right, I need to do it myself. And why would I go spend money to hire somebody for something that I know how to do myself? I fight that instinct every single day, and I don't always win the battle. My friend Zach said something to me the other day when we were talking about this, and he used a line from a Morgan Wallen song. It said, if I'm the problem, you might be the reason. Because I talk to a lot of operators who look at the guys who are winning and they tell me, we're doing all the same things that they're doing. And then I go visit the wash and the greeters aren't asking anybody for a phone number, and the signage that we created for them is sitting in a back room somewhere, and the team is not delivering the experience that the owner is absolutely certain they're delivering. And he's not lying to me, he just honestly doesn't know because he hasn't been out there in a while and there's nobody standing in the gap for him. And when the wash doesn't grow, something has to be the problem. So it's the market, or it's the economy, or it's the competitor who opened 3 miles up the road, or it's the equipment, or it's the marketing company. And sometimes it really is us, and we've got to own that when it is. But most of the time, when I actually go look, it isn't any of those things. Now, there's a second version of this, and it's more common than most of us realize. Everything that I've said so far is about the operator who's doing too much. Some of you have the opposite problem. You're not doing too much at the wash. You're not doing anything at the wash. You've got a full-time career somewhere else and the wash is the side hustle. You bought it as an investment and you check the numbers on your phone maybe once a week. And I'm not going to tell you that that can't work because it can. We work with operators who almost never show up at their wash and the business is running really well. But it works because they hired somebody. They trained that person and they gave them the authority to make a decision without picking up the phone. And they stuck with that person long enough to make sure it worked. There's a person sitting in that chair. The other version of it is when that chair is just empty. You're not there and you never put anybody there either. And then 6 months go by and the numbers are flat and you start wondering what your marketing company's been doing. So whether you're doing all 10 jobs yourself or you're doing none of them because you have another demanding career, it's the same problem wearing a different shirt. Nobody's been given the job. So here's what I want you to do this week. And it's not going to cost you anything but a little bit of pride. Sit down and write out every job you did last week. Not what the wash needs, what you did, all of it. The maintenance, the payroll, the hiring, the schedule, the cleaning the pits, the chemical order, the Google reviews, the promo that you meant to send and never sent. And then go down that list and put one of two marks next to every single line. Either only I can do this or somebody else can do this at 80%. And be honest about that second column because that's where the wins and losses really are. Most of you are going to find out that the only I can do this column is about 3 things long, and everything else on that page is sitting there because you never handed it to anybody. That's not a market problem, and it's not an equipment problem. It's you. And I'm saying that as the guy who's on that list right next to you. Then pick one, just one, the thing eating the most of your week that you are least essential for, and then hand it off before the end of the month. And if you're the other guy, the one who didn't do a single job at the wash last week, then make a different list. Write down the name of the person who did. And if you can't fill that page either, well, there's your answer. For a lot of you, the thing that you ought to be handing off is the marketing. So let me be specific about what that looks like because I'm not telling you to go find a vendor and then disappear. You're going to hand that off twice. The first one is to your marketing agency, whether that's us or somebody else. We're not going to send you a login and wish you luck. We build the strategy with you and then we run it with you. Growing the list, the welcome sequence, the converting those retail customers into members, keeping the members you've got, building your website, responding to reviews, managing your ads. That's our job. You should not be the one doing that at 11 o'clock at night after you've been done cleaning the pit all day. But there's a second handoff, and this is the one people skip. You need somebody on your site who owns the execution because our team can't ask your customers for their phone number. We can't make sure that your signs get put out. We can't deliver a remarkable experience at your wash, and neither can your software. The only person who can do that is the one standing at your site. So that's somebody on your team, not the most impressive one, the one that you trust. And you tell them this part is theirs, and you show them what good looks like, and then you go check on it, and then you leave them alone and let them run it. That's the whole difference between the operator who's crushing it and the operator asking me why he isn't. It really is that simple. Now, I know why you haven't done this, and it isn't because you're lazy, and it isn't because you don't care. Hiring somebody feels like a cost, and doing it yourself feels free. It's not free. You're paying for it in growth that you will never see. You don't need somebody who's better at this than you are. You need somebody you trust at 80%, and then you need to get out of their way and let them do it. So go make that list and be honest about the second column. And then I want to give you something because I don't like handing somebody a problem and then no plan. Levi and I wrote a book called The 5 Funnels to Freedom, and it lays out the whole system that we've been circling this entire episode. How you build a list that turns into the most valuable asset you own. How you move a retail customer into a membership. How you keep those members a whole lot longer than 7 months. But there's a real reason that I want you to have this book this week. And it comes out of a line from chapter 10. Most businesses don't fail because of a lack of knowledge. They fail because of a lack of execution. That's this whole episode. You already know most of what you ought to be doing. What you don't have is somebody who's been given the job of doing it. So the book hands you a system and then you hand somebody the job. If you want to get a copy of it, text the word book to the number 411-365. That's BOOK to 411-365. Now, I know what you're going to do with it because you're an operator. You're going to read it yourself and then you're going to try to find room in your own schedule to install all of these funnels. Don't do that. Read it and then hand it to the person you're going to give the job to. Because the answer to almost every problem in this industry is still wash more cars. I believe that. But nobody's washing more cars while you're up on the roof fixing a leak and answering emails in the parking lot. I'll see you next week.